And it's not just Beijing that's bursting with people. Shanghai's population is at least 24 million and is expected to reach 30 million by the end of the decade. Guangzhou has 15 million inhabitants and fears there will be 18 million by 2020. Demographers warn Guangzhou's already reached maximum capacity. In all three megacities, a large percentage are migrants who have little or no access to housing, education, health, and other social services. But China plans to move an additional 250 million people from the countryside. Here's what Premier LinkAsia said recently.
The Chinese economy has entered a key phase. The key to economic restructuring is to expand domestic demand and to promote urban as well as regional development.
How can China do that, and which cities can take tens of millions of new residents? To help us answer this, we have Jeremy Wallace with us on Skype, a political scientist with appointments at Yale and Ohio State University. Professor Wallace studies China's urbanization. Welcome to LinkAsia.
Thanks for having me.
Now, why is China embarking on this vast urbanization program?
China's urbanization is nothing new in the sense that China has moved millions of people from the countryside to cities in order to improve their productivity. That's the source of China's economic growth. What is new and different is that China now seems to be trying to encourage consumption, and people in cities consume more. So moving people from the countryside to cities is about encouraging this new transition of China's economy.
You know, one scholar says the plan reminds him of the Great Leap Forward. That's the Mao-era scheme to rapidly industrialize China that eventually led to a devastating famine. Do you think the urbanization plan will be as disruptive?
I'm very skeptical. I think that right now, what we're talking about in China is talking about a kind of incremental change. We don't know the details of what the plan is going to be, but I imagine that it is going to be something along the lines of what we've seen. China encouraging farmers to move to cities, but mostly moving to smaller cities. Yes, the large cities of China have really increased in size, but China has also spread out its urbanization so that it has numerous cities that are anonymous in many ways and yet contain millions of people, like Zibo in Shandong province that has as many people as San Francisco and Oakland together.
Your research indicates that China's Communist Party may be making a big mistake by filling the cities, especially these smaller cities that you just mentioned. Why do you say that?
It's actually the opposite, that the large cities, having large cities is actually what's dangerous. If China really relaxed its migration restrictions and allowed people to live where they might, then probably the cities, the Zibo's, the kind of anonymous cities of China would empty out, and you would see even more people moving into the large cities, the mega cities, Beijing, Shanghai, what have you. And that is particularly dangerous because cities are dangerous for non-democratic regimes like China. Protesting in large cities, particularly the capital city, are very dangerous. They don't have to worry about elections to push people out of office, but protests in the capital can do so. China has been able to manage its urbanization without having the slums that kind of dominate cities of the developing world. And it's been able to do so because it restricts where people live. And so relaxing those restrictions might lead to the kind of instability and problems that other countries have faced.
So then what do you think is the attitude of local governments toward this mass migration, given your observation? One figure I've seen says for every 700,000 people moving to Beijing, the city's government will have to spend more than $13 billion on services. Can megacities afford that? And are local governments, do you think, concerned about what a mass population might mean in terms of a possible uprising?
Absolutely, but it varies from place to place. Large cities are very concerned about the number of migrants. Officials in Guangzhou told me explicitly that they're very concerned about having to pay for the pensions, the social security, the healthcare, the schooling of migrants and their children. But smaller cities are excited about the opportunity to have migrants to improve and spur economic growth in their localities. So it varies from place to place. The large cities are particularly worried about having to pick up the tab, and they worry that the central government will not help them out.
Okay, very interesting perspective. Jeremy, thank you.
Thank you.
Jeremy Wallace is a fellow at Yale's Macmillan Center for International Affairs and Area Studies and an assistant professor of political science at Ohio State University. You can learn more about him, including how to follow his blog, on our experts page.
Now wireless airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.